Okay, I don't even know where to start with this. I've been sitting on it for days now, trying to talk myself out of writing anything. But it's 2:47 a.m., the baby is kicking like she's training for the Olympics. And I need to say it out loud. Or type it out. Whatever. I think the first crack was so small I almost missed it. Like a tiny chip in a mirror. You don't see it until one day the whole thing just shatters. So, I'm 6 months pregnant. That part's not a secret. We tried for this baby. Like, really tried. 2 miscarriages, 1 chemical, and more pee sticks than I care to admit. I've cried in parking lots. Cried in Target. Cried while deleting yet another pregnancy tracker app from my phone. Brandon was there for all of it. Or at least physically there. Sitting beside me on the bathroom floor while I cried. Rubbing my back, saying things like, "We'll get there. We always do." And I believed him. God, I was so hopeful. When I finally got that positive test, like a clear screaming, no doubt about it, pink line, I just sat there in the bathroom shaking. I took another, then another. I even drove to the clinic the next day just to get blood work done because I couldn't believe it was real. And when I told him, this man who I thought wanted it as badly as I did, do you know what he said? Okay. No smile, no hug, no reaction. Just, okay. Like I had told him I ordered the wrong size for his sneakers. I remember blinking at him, thinking I must have misheard. I actually laughed. Like, nervous laugh, you know? And I said, "Wait, you're in shock, right? Like the good kind?" And he looked up from his phone, read it, of course, and just said, "I just need time to process." Then he scrolled back down like I hadn't just told him we were finally getting the thing we cried over, prayed for, fought for. I told myself he was overwhelmed, that it didn't mean anything. I mean, people process things differently, right? Maybe he was just scared. Maybe it hadn't sunk in yet, except time passed, and nothing changed. No questions about appointments. No, "How are you feeling today?" Not even a hand on my belly when I mentioned the flutter starting. It was like the baby didn't exist. Like I didn't exist. I'd bring it up. The nursery, names, even silly stuff like cravings. And he'd just go blank, change the subject. Or worse, stare at me in silence like I was bothering him. One night I asked if he wanted to come to the next ultrasound. And he just shrugged, like it was optional. Like it wasn't the spine-tingling, goosebump-inducing moment I'd been dreaming about since the second I saw 2 pink lines. I'm not even a cutesy pregnant person. I'm not posting bump pics with little fruit comparisons or journaling baby kicks. I'm nauseous, bloated, exhausted, and hormonal. I've had backaches since week 8 and acid reflux that feels like battery acid in my throat. All I wanted, all I needed, was for him to act like he saw me, but he didn't. He'd come home, kiss me on the cheek like we were coworkers, grab his headset and vanish into his games, and I'd just sit there on the couch, stomach stretching, under my hoodie wondering if I was going crazy. One night I asked him, straight up, "Do you still want this? The baby? Us?" He looked at me like I'd just asked him to donate a kidney. He sighed and said, and I quote, "I don't know what you want me to say." Then he stood up and left the room. No argument, no conversation, just gone. Back to his stupid game, talking to strangers with usernames like xdeadshot420 while I sat there staring at the blank TV screen like an idiot. I didn't even cry that time. I just sat there, staring, my hands on my belly, feeling her kick, feeling her move, and wondering how something so full of life could be met with so much silence. I kept trying to rationalize it. Told myself it was stress, that he'd come around, that once he saw her on the ultrasound, he'd snap out of whatever this was. My mom said, "Men don't always connect until the baby is born." My best friend, Elizabeth, said, "Maybe he's scared." But how long do you excuse someone's silence before you call it what it is? Disinterest, detachment, distance so wide it feels like you're yelling across a canyon. I started keeping track, which sounds obsessive, but I had to know I wasn't crazy. I wrote down every time he ignored a baby-related conversation, every appointment he skipped, every time he left the room when I brought up names or clothes or even the weather affecting my swelling. After 2 weeks, I stopped counting. The notebook was too full. I started sleeping on the edge of the bed, then eventually on the couch. He didn't ask why, didn't even mention it. We went from "we'll get there" to "I need time to process" to absolutely nothing. I'm not sure when exactly the moment was. The moment where it all shifted and I knew I was in this alone. But I think it was that night I came home from the store with a tiny onesie I'd picked up because it was on sale and said "Little Miracle" across the front. I held it up, smiling like a dope, and said, "Look, it's so cute, right?" And he didn't even look up, just said, "You know we don't even know if we're keeping it, right?" I froze, my hands shaking. "What do you mean?" I asked, and he shrugged, again, always with the shrugs, and said, "I don't know. It's early. Things happen. You shouldn't get too attached." I didn't respond. I couldn't. I went into the bedroom, closed the door, pressed the onesie to my chest and cried so quietly my shoulders hurt from holding it in. I think that was it. That was the moment everything shifted. The moment I realized I was carrying this baby alone. Emotionally, spiritually, maybe even physically if it came to that. And he didn't even care enough to lie about it. So yeah, that's where we are. 6 months pregnant, a baby girl kicking inside me like she already knows. She's fighting for space in a world that wasn't ready to welcome her. And a man I used to call my partner pretending she's an idea he can ignore until it disappears. And me? I'm done pretending it's not happening. I'm done making excuses for him. This baby is real. She's coming. And if I have to bring her into this world alone, then so be it. At least she'll know someone wanted her from the very beginning. Henley texted me on a Wednesday. One of those chirpy family dinner Friday messages with a string of emojis that felt forced, like she copied and pasted it from a group chat she wasn't even excited to be in. I should have said no, but I didn't. Because part of me, the tired, hopeful part still clinging to the memory of a version of Brandon that maybe never existed, thought this could help. Maybe being around family would wake him up. Maybe seeing me, belly round, and obvious now, surrounded by people who were excited, would jolt him out of his emotional coma. God, I was so dumb. I wore the only dress that still made me feel like a person and not a body rental. It had soft sleeves, a bit of stretch, and didn't cut into my ribs when I sat. I curled my hair for the first time in weeks, slid on a little mascara. I looked okay. Tired, sure, but okay. Brandon barely looked up when I walked out of the bedroom. "You ready?" he asked, already grabbing his keys. No compliment. No, "You look nice." Just transactional vibes. I buckled my seatbelt in silence. The dinner was at Henley's place, the Pinterest-perfect house she wouldn't stop posting about. She called it her fixer-upper, even though her husband's parents bought it for them outright. The kind of home with white walls, expensive rugs, and not a single crumb or fingerprint anywhere. She opened the door wearing a ruffled apron and holding a wine glass like it was a personality trait. Her eyes scanned my body. Immediately, like a TSA agent at a baby shower. "Oh," she said, voice pitched high. "You're finally showing. I was starting to think it was a fake pregnancy or something." Then she laughed. Loud. Like she'd just told the funniest joke in the world. I laughed too, but it was one of those tight, don't make a scene kind of laughs. The kind you do when you're already spiraling and holding on by a thread. Brandon didn't say anything. Didn't defend me. Didn't even flinch. Just walked inside like that was normal. We sat down at the table. Henley, her husband with the personality of lukewarm soup, their two hyper kids, Brandon's mom, Brandon, and me. Small talk started. The kids screamed over each other. Wine was poured. Not for me, obviously. Someone asked about names. Someone else brought up a beach trip they were planning next year. "Guess you won't be able to come," Henley said with a smirk. What with the baby and all? And Brandon, my partner, the father of this baby, the man who watched me cry over miscarriages, chuckled and said, "Or without, depending on how things go." Then he laughed. He laughed. I stared at him, hands folded in my lap so tightly, I could feel my fingernails pressing into my palms. My whole body buzzed like it was trying to keep me from combusting. Still, I said nothing. The conversation moved on. They talked about strollers, about weird celebrity baby names. Henley's husband made a crack about naming their next kid something normal like Doug. Everyone laughed. And then I made my mistake. I mentioned a name I liked, just casually. One I'd been holding on to. One that made me feel connected to the baby growing inside me. I said it out loud for the first time. Waiting, just hoping. For a little smile or something. Henley snorted. "That sounds like a stripper name." I blinked. My face burned. I looked at Brandon. Waited. Nothing. No reaction. No glance. No, that's not funny. Just silence. Like he agreed. Like this wasn't worth protecting. And then, he said it. And I will never forget the way the air left my body when he did. He shrugged. Always the shrug. And said, "I mean, we don't even know if it's mine. Ever heard of cheating and DNA tests?" He said it with a smile. A smile. Like it was a casual joke. Like he was on a sitcom and not sitting across from the pregnant woman carrying his child. Henley burst out laughing. His mom went ghost white. Her wine glass froze halfway to her lips. I froze too. Time stopped. There was a long silence. That awful, suffocating kind where you're waiting for someone, anyone, to say, "That's not okay." No one did. No one said my name. No one defended me. No one even looked at me. I placed my fork down. Slowly, deliberately, pushed my chair back. Stood. Brandon was still chuckling into his water glass, like he'd just nailed a killer punchline. I looked him dead in the face and said, "You're right. This child doesn't deserve a father like you." Then I turned around, walked out, 6 months pregnant, hair curled, lip gloss perfect, rage boiling under my skin. No one followed me. No one called my name. No one. I got in the car and sat there for a full minute, gripping the steering wheel like it owed me an explanation. My heart was thudding so hard I could feel it in my gums. I stared at the house, the flickering porch light, the shadows moving behind the blinds. And then I drove away. I don't remember the actual drive home. I just remember getting out of the car, walking up the stairs to our apartment, and collapsing on the bed. Not crying, not yelling, just stunned. An hour later, he texted me, "You overreacted. It was just a joke. I was trying to lighten the mood." I didn't respond. Then his mom texted too. "Sorry things got tense. Family dinners can be stressful. Maybe we could clear the air over lunch?" I blocked her. My mom came over. The next morning, I hadn't even told her everything yet, but I think she could tell something had cracked open in me. I wasn't panicking. I wasn't spiraling. I was furious, not even at Brandon anymore. At myself, forever thinking he'd show up, for mistaking his physical presence for partnership, for believing a man who can't even say "I'm sorry" would magically become a father just because there was a crib in the corner and a tiny heartbeat on a screen. He humiliated me. He turned my pregnancy into a punchline in front of his family, the same people who clinked glasses while I blinked back tears. And now I'm done. I don't know exactly what done looks like yet, but I know I'm not sitting through another dinner where the baby in my belly is treated like a joke and I'm treated like an inconvenience. He can choke on his sarcasm. His sister can choke on her wine. And his mom can take her clear the air lunch and shove it right up her polite little facade. I'm carrying a child. I don't have room for cowards anymore. It started a week after the dinner. I had moved in with my cousin Christy, who, bless her, didn't ask questions. She just pointed to the guest room and said, "Sheets are clean, fridge is full, and the air fryer works. You're safe here." I was still shell-shocked, still replaying that dinner over and over in my head like a horror movie I couldn't shut off. But I wasn't crying. I wasn't begging. I was quiet and furious. And then came the onesie. I found it sitting on the hood of my car. No note. Just a tiny crinkled plastic bag with a pink onesie inside. Size newborn, printed, with a cartoon rainbow and the words "Daddy's Little Miracle." The tag was still on. Clearance rack, half off. The kind of thing you grab last minute when guilt creeps in and you need to prove you care without actually caring. I stood in the parking lot holding it like it was on fire. It wasn't from Christy. Wasn't from anyone I knew. It was him. Of course it was him. I didn't text him. Didn't say a word. Just went inside and stuffed it in the back of the closet like it was contaminated. The next day there was a folded piece of paper taped to the apartment door. "I miss you. Please talk to me." No name. But I recognized the handwriting. The way his capital R curls at the top. He used to leave grocery lists on the back of receipts and stick them to the fridge. I used to think it was charming. Now it made my skin crawl. Then came the crib. An actual boxed crib. One of those 4-in-1 grows with your child monstrosities. Left right outside the apartment door. Like a guilt sacrifice to the gods. No card. Just the box. Christy stepped over it with her arms full of groceries and said, "You want me to set it on fire or just kick it down the stairs?" I dragged it inside. Left it unopened in the hallway. It sat there like an accusation. Like a reminder that the man who humiliated me in front of his family now thought wooden furniture equaled redemption. I should have thrown it away then, but part of me was still processing. Part of me was still waiting for the real apology, the one with eye contact, the one where he said, "I'm sorry, I was wrong, you didn't deserve that." That apology never came. What came instead was him, in person. I had just finished a hellish call with my insurance rep, trying to figure out how to handle my upcoming hospital registration without listing the father on the paperwork. I was hot, exhausted, and barely holding it together. I stepped outside to take out the trash, and there he was, standing near the mailboxes like he was waiting for a pizza delivery. In his hands, a paper bag and a stuffed elephant poking out the top. He looked up startled, like he hadn't expected to get caught. "I just wanted to give you this," he said, "and maybe talk, if you're not too busy." Too busy? I was 7 months pregnant, emotionally wrecked, and 10 seconds away from hurling the stuffed animal into traffic. "No," I said. He stepped closer. "Just 5 minutes, I just want to explain." "No," I said again, and then he muttered it, low, under his breath, but loud enough for me to hear. "You're being dramatic. I lost it." I snatched the bag out of his hands and threw it directly into the trash bin next to us. "You don't get to rewrite what happened," I said. "You don't get to show up with overpriced furniture and clearance rack guilt and act like we're fine now. You don't get to pretend this is just a rough patch." He blinked, stunned. I was scared, okay? I didn't mean it. I thought, "You'd get over it." "Get over what?" I snapped. "You saying the baby might not be yours? Or sitting silent while your sister called me a joke of a mother?" He looked down like he was trying to rehearse his next lie. "It was a bad night. Everyone was drinking. People say dumb things when they're nervous." "It was a Tuesday," I said flatly. "Your sister served lemonade. Your mom drove home. No one was drunk. You're just a coward." That's when it turned. He tried to soften his voice. Tried to look earnest. "I already told my mom we're working it out," he said. "She's planning to visit when the baby's born. I just thought maybe we could keep things private for now so it's not a whole thing." I swear, my jaw actually dropped. "You told your family we're back. Together?" I asked. He nodded, like it was nothing. Like that was a normal thing to lie about. I slapped him. Not hard, not in anger, just in disbelief. It was like my hand moved before my brain even processed what was happening. A light slap, a punctuation mark to the absurdity. Then I turned, walked upstairs, slammed the door, and locked it behind me. I sat on the floor for 10 minutes after, just blinking. The next day, Elizabeth, my best friend, called me. "You're not gonna believe this," she said. She had run into Henley at the grocery store. Yes, that Henley. Henley who had laughed at me over dinner. Henley who said the baby was doomed. And Henley, apparently, was now gushing. "Oh, I'm so excited for the baby," she had said. "I'm glad things are smoothing out. I always knew Brandon would come around." That was the moment it clicked. The onesie, the crib, the bag, the elephant, the sudden visit. It wasn't about me. It wasn't even about the baby. It was about optics. He didn't want to fix anything. He wanted to look like he was fixing it, so he could still be the golden boy. The good guy who stepped up and made it work. The image of redemption, even if the reality was rotting underneath. So I made a decision. I called Christy, asked her to grab the bungee cords. We loaded the unopened crib into her trunk and drove it straight to his mother's house. I didn't text, didn't warn them, just knocked on the door and waited. She opened it, looking surprised but not surprised enough. "Oh, hi," she said. "You look well. Is Brandon here?" I asked. "No, he's at work." "Good." I pushed the box into the doorway and stepped inside, just returning the lie he sent me. She blinked. "What do you mean?" I looked her dead in the eye. "Your son told you we were working it out. We're not. We won't. And if you show up at the hospital or come near this baby when she's born, I will file a restraining order so fast your head will spin." She gasped, like I'd slapped her. "You're making this harder than it has to be," she said quietly. And I laughed. I actually laughed. Because of course I was making it harder. That's what women like me always do, right? When we stop playing nice. When we refused to eat the crap we're served with a smile. I walked out, slammed the door behind me, didn't look back. He hasn't reached out since. Not directly anyway, but I know he's spinning it. Mutual friends have told me he's saying I had a hormonal breakdown, that I overreacted, and he forgives me. He forgives me, but I'm not playing along anymore. I've got an appointment next week with a lawyer. I'm looking at options. Legal, financial, everything. Because I'm not just walking away. I'm sealing the door shut. He can keep his fake redemption, his furniture, his stories, his golden boy mask. I saw what was underneath, and I'll never forget it. I didn't think anything could shock me at that point. After the dinner, the gifts, the crib drop-off, and the pathetic attempt at rewriting history, I thought I'd seen every version of Brandon there was to see. The selfish one, the coward, the PR stunt version who showed up with a stuffed elephant like that was supposed to erase public humiliation. But then Carter called. Yes, that Carter, Brandon's old best friend, the one who used to be at our place all the time in the beginning. Board games, beer, movie nights. They were close, closer than brothers, he once said. Then one day, out of nowhere, Carter just stopped coming around. Brandon said they had a falling out. Something about Carter. Being too intense, I didn't push. Guy friendships are weird. They argue about fantasy football and don't speak for 5 years. Whatever. I hadn't heard from Carter in over a year, so when his name popped up on my phone, 10:17 p.m. on a Thursday, I almost didn't pick up. But something in me said, this isn't random. The message was short, just, hey, I know it's not my place, but you deserve to know the full story. It might explain a lot. I stared at the screen. The baby was kicking against my ribs, and I was sitting cross-legged on Christy's couch eating peanut butter out of the jar. I read it 3 times. My stomach dropped. I replied, go ahead. He didn't waste time. Apparently Brandon had a secret, one he never told me. One that not even Henley ever weaponized, which, honestly, is shocking given her talent for venom. Years ago, Brandon got someone else pregnant. Not a long-term girlfriend. Not a serious relationship. Just a girl he dated for 6 months in his early 20s. Carter said she wasn't trying to trap him or force anything. She told Brandon she was pregnant, and he lost it. Not like, I'm scared, lost it. More like full-blown meltdown. Begged her not to keep it. Said he wasn't cut out for fatherhood. Said it would ruin his life. Pleaded with her, guilt-tripped her. Said she was doing it to control him. She ended up terminating. And, according to Carter, that's where it all broke in Brandon's brain. He didn't process it like a tragedy. He processed it like a betrayal. Like she took something from him. His control. His say. Carter said after that, something shifted. Brandon stopped seeing parenthood as a responsibility or a joy. He saw it as a trap. Something women used. Something that could be used against him. I thought it was just a phase, Carter said. But it got darker. Meaner. He'd make these comments, man. Like how men should never trust a positive test. How once they've got your DNA, you're screwed for life. Stuff like that. Carter said when I had my miscarriages, Brandon seemed supportive. But he wasn't grieving. He was relieved. He'd pat my shoulder, say the right things, and then change the subject like we were talking about the weather. Looking back, I should have seen it. The way he dodged conversations about trying again, the way he flinched when I showed him baby clothes, the silence when I talked about what we'd name our child. He didn't want to be a father, not even with me. I didn't cry, I didn't scream. I just sat there clutching the jar of peanut butter like a stress ball and let the truth wash over me like cold water. I wanted to hate Carter for waiting this long. But the way he said it, like it had been eating at him for years, made it clear he'd finally hit his breaking point too. He's been spinning the story, Carter said, saying you were hormonal, that you flipped out at dinner and walked out over a joke. But I've seen it before. He always flips it, makes a mess, then acts like the victim. And I knew. He never wanted a child. He just wanted to control the idea of one. The role, the image. He wanted the expecting. Dad praise, the Instagram dad of the year potential, the baby bump photo ops. Without the discomfort, the reality, the work. He wanted the credit without the cost. I didn't respond to Carter right away. I just stared at the ceiling all night, the baby kicking under my ribs like she knew something had changed. The next morning, I woke up with fire in my chest. Not sadness, not heartbreak, clarity, and I wanted everyone to feel it. So I posted a photo, not a filtered, glowy, single mom journey thing, not the cute, curated Pinterest aesthetic, just a raw, unfiltered pic of me on Christy's floor, in sweatpants, hair in a greasy bun, dark circles under my eyes, baby, onesie in the background. She had just spit up on my hoodie. I looked exhausted, because I was. Caption, you said she was a mistake, but she's the only thing I've never doubted. That was it. No tags, no names, no context. But I knew he'd see it, because his sister still follows Christy, and Christy reposted it. And Henley watches Christy's stories like it's her full-time job, which means Brandon saw it within the hour. How do I know? Because suddenly, my phone lit up. Him. Really? That's low. Him. You're alienating my daughter from me. Him. This isn't fair. His daughter. I laughed, out loud, in the middle of brushing my teeth. I replied, you alienated yourself the second you turned my pregnancy into a punchline. What exactly are you trying to come back to? The baby you never wanted? Or the image you're desperate to fix? He left me on read. 3 days later, a letter arrived. Yes, a letter. Like we're in some Jane Austen subplot. It was from his mother. She wrote that she was deeply concerned that children need both parents, that she was worried about the long-term emotional impact of denying a child access to her father. She wrote that Brandon had struggled, but he was trying, and that I needed to consider what's best for the baby. I didn't reply. I folded the letter and stuck it into the baby book I'd started keeping, right next to the sonogram picture where she looks like she's flipping the camera off. Christy laughed when I showed her. "That's your child," she said. "Pure chaos." And maybe it is. Maybe this whole thing is chaos. A baby born into drama. A mother learning to be steel when she always bent for everyone else. A man desperate to save face but too cowardly to face truth. But here's what I know. I'm not raising this baby on lies. She'll know the truth. That she was wanted. That she was loved. That when someone denied her before she even took her first breath, her mom stood up and said no. No more jokes, no more silence, no more control. Brandon can keep pretending that he's the misunderstood one. That he was just scared. That he tried. But the mask is slipping. And now, everyone's starting to see what's really underneath. The night she was born, it rained. Not a gentle drizzle, not a cinematic, slow motion kind of rain. I mean, full on, windshield, wipers and max, flood the sidewalks kind of storm. Christy drove like a lunatic through it, one hand on the wheel, the other, holding mine while I screamed through contractions that felt like my body was turning inside out. My daughter was born in a blur of sweat, panic, and defiance. No candles, no playlist, no whispered affirmations. Just me, Christy, a very patient nurse named Rachel, and a baby girl who came out with a scowl and a scream like she had something to prove. She was perfect. Tiny fists, wide eyes, that suspicious little wrinkle between her brows like she already didn't trust the world. And I didn't text him. Not Brandon, not Henley, not his mother, not a single person from that side of the story. I didn't put his name on the birth certificate. Didn't mention him to the nurses. Didn't pause once to consider how he'd feel. Some people said I was being harsh, that he had a right to know, that he's still her father. But no, fathers don't humiliate the mothers of their children at family dinners. Fathers don't question paternity in front of their sisters and then laugh when it lands like a grenade. Fathers show up before the baby does. When it's hard, when it's thankless, when it's scary. He gave up that right. And I wasn't playing his game anymore. The first 48 hours were a fog of formula bottles, medical forms, and me sobbing because I didn't know how to hold her without her head wobbling like a baby bird. Christy slept on the hospital couch, wrapped in a blanket that smelled like French fries, and told me every 5 minutes I was doing amazing, even when I clearly wasn't. Elizabeth came the next morning with bagels and a balloon that said, "You did it, bitch." I wanted to laugh, but I was too tired. Still, something cracked open in me when I looked down at my daughter, warm against my chest, blinking up like I was the only thing anchoring her to earth. She didn't care about family drama. She didn't care about optics or gossip or what her last name was. She just needed me. And I was finally, enough for someone. That's when I posted the second photo. Not for pity, not to start a war, just truth. It was me holding her, no filter. My hospital gown was halfway off one shoulder. My hair was matted, and she was wrapped in that scratchy pink and blue striped blanket they give every baby like it's a rite of passage. The caption was simple: "She's here, and we're both stronger than you thought." I didn't tag anyone, didn't say his name, but by now you know how this goes. Henley saw it within an hour. Christy posted it on her story, and Henley's creepy little habit of stalking her finally paid off. Less than 2 hours after the post, my phone started vibrating like a hive of angry bees. Texts, DMs, even a voicemail. Who leaves voicemails anymore? Most of the messages were from numbers I didn't recognize. People who knew him, extended family, friends of friends. Some were kind. "She's beautiful. I hope you're okay." Some were less kind. "You're bitter. Let him see his kid. You're punishing your baby because you're hurt. Brandon's trying. You're being cruel." And some were straight up manipulative. His mother sent me a long message about healing, about family, about how denying a father his child is abuse. That one I left unread. Brandon didn't message right away. No, he waited 2 days. Then I got the essay. One of those multi-paragraph, self-pitying, delusional monologues where every line is a red flag disguised as vulnerability. He said I had made him out to be a monster, that he'd been scared, not cruel, that I had misunderstood his jokes, that he was just trying to lighten the mood and I had blown it all out of proportion. He said he forgave me. Forgave me. I didn't reply. So he posted on Facebook a long, performative status update about how sometimes people just can't forgive, about how he wished things could have been different, and how he was praying for healing. He turned off comments, of course, but the damage was done. Mutual friends started texting me, cautiously, like I was a live wire. One said, "I'm just checking in, he seems like he's really hurting." Another sent me a screenshot of a group chat where he called me unstable, said I'd spiraled after the baby, that I was withholding out of spite. I stayed quiet. I didn't post a follow-up. I didn't argue. I didn't explain myself. I didn't need to. Because the truth has a way of sitting in people's chests like a weight they can't shake, and anyone who really knew me already understood. Then came the final straw. I was home, finally, trying to survive on 4 hours of broken sleep and microwaved oatmeal, when the doorbell rang. I checked the peephole and felt my stomach drop. Brandon, holding a box. I opened the door a sliver, just enough to make it clear this wasn't an invitation. He didn't even say hello, just looked past me like he was trying to catch a glimpse of her. "I brought some things," he said. I didn't move. "You can leave them on the ground," I said. "Then go." He looked tired, hair messy, shirt wrinkled like he'd slept in it, probably on purpose, for the aesthetic, for the performance. "Can I just see her?" he asked. "No, I have rights," he said, jaw tightening. I nodded. "And I have boundaries." He laughed, but it was bitter. You're really going to do this? Keep her from me? You kept yourself from her for 9 months, I said, voice flat. And you made it very clear what you thought of her while she was still growing inside me. You don't get to rebrand now. I made mistakes, he said. But I didn't deserve to be cut out. I stepped fully into the doorway, blocking his view. You weren't cut out. You walked out. You walked out the day you joked about cheating and DNA tests. The day you said nothing while your sister tore me down. The day you lied to your family and tried to manipulate your way back in with a clearance onesie and a crib. He clenched his jaw, but didn't deny any of it. Then he said, she's going to grow up without a father. And I smiled. No, she's going to grow up without you. And then I closed the door, locked it, held my breath until I couldn't hear his footsteps anymore. Later that night, I sat on the couch with her curled up on my chest, her tiny fingers gripping the edge of my shirt. Her breath was warm and rhythmic, like waves against my heart. I looked down at her, and all the noise, the messages, the rumors, the guilt campaigns faded. Because this was what mattered. She didn't care about Brandon's Facebook monologues or his fragile pride. She didn't care that he thought forgiveness was something owed to him like change after a bad tip. She only knew me, the one who held her through the screams, the one who sang off-key lullabies at 3 a.m., the one who stayed. And I made her a promise, right there in the quiet of our little apartment. I will never let anyone make you feel like you're a mistake. I will never let you wonder if you were wanted, and I will never let someone rewrite your story to make themselves the hero. Brandon can keep spinning his version, but I'm done playing a supporting role in his script. I'm the narrator now, and I'm not coming back.